Whether you like it or not, this week will be very influential on the market. Now, when we have the biggest focal point, this is from the Fed's mouth and not mine, of data coming out this week. We've had CPI and PPI, and those have performed terrible. PCE will be released this week. We're going to go over expectations with that and ultimately what can come from that. But we need to be identifying kind of the trends that we have here on the charts as well. We have supply and demand levels. We continue to wake up into supply, get rejected pretty aggressively, to say the least. And then we also have some news from China. So I want to do a broad recap of what's happening. This will not be a short video going over, exactly what's going to happen Tuesday morning at open. This is going to be a broad viewpoint. On Sunday, we go over the entire market and we give a dated viewpoint, if you will. Before we go into that, to ask you to do two things: like and subscribe. I recommend only subscribing if you feel like you got something out of this video and you are wanting unbiased opinions on the market. If you come into the channel every day and you want to hear something, you might not get really anything out of this, right? We like to go over data as it comes in and giving you an unbiased precedent and an unbiased viewpoint with this market. It's not about telling you what you want to hear. It's about telling you what you need to hear on the market in order to hopefully give you the best opportunity to reduce your risk in the market. This is not financial advice. It's more of an indicator, if anything. So take that as you will. Also, the newsletter, it will be released today. Make sure you check it out. The link is down below, so make sure you got it. If you're already on the newsletter, then you should have already received it. Make sure you check that out. We will be having a new feature coming out on the website, just so you know, and I want to just give you all a visual really quick. We're going to be doing a lot more. Like I said, 2023 is all about free. So we want to focus on giving you more educational content, and a forum to be coming very soon on our website. So just giving you a little bit of stuff to be looking forward to, some more education, things like that. That will be coming out very soon. So probably like another month or so till that's all released. We want to have as much content on there as possible before we just throw it out there to y'all. So let's get back to the video. So when we look at this, I basically wanted to go over a few things. And let's go over the three bullets, if you will, of the week. We're going to have PCE on the 24th. That's probably your most important thing coming out this week. We have the Fed tone. We don't have that many Fed members speaking. We have Fed minutes coming out Wednesday, I believe, and then we have Fed Williams speaking after that shortly. And then you have your China concerns, if you will. Now, to say the least, China has been little wild the past few days and weeks. If we look at what they've said, we have the China balloons. Now we have them supplying arms to Russia with the Ukraine war, and you can say this is right, wrong, whatever you want, but it's not good. It's not good for the economy, in my opinion. If we start to see this, US supplying Ukraine and then China supplying Russia, it's not good for the market. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's gonna fuel the trade war that we have going on with them. Now, again, want to focus on that here in a second, but we also need to identify the Fed minutes. And again, just so you know, this is not my words, this is the Fed's words. The Fed identifies PCE as the most important source of data, and that's what's going to be happening coming out on the 24th. So make sure you're ready for that. Also, we have some earnings from Walmart and Home Depot and a few others that will also be in the newsletter, so you can check all those out. But again, I want to highlight, when you look at these are going to be some of the head honchos, which showing you, are consumers still buying? Home Depot, are builders still spending like they were previously? This is going to give us some good data going into this week. And so earnings to be looking forward to. You probably won't trade either one of those, so just so you know. Now, when we come back into the charts, I want to highlight a few things before we go too far. Someone said in my last video, they were like, Tyler, hey, how about you move your face? I don't want to see your face. I want to see the charts. And that's a great point, but sorry. So what we have going on here, and I just want to highlight something that's happened over the past week and a half, right? So if you look on our first big breakdown, we were making higher lows. You pushed up, came back, you broke down, and then it was just vicious through there, came back into demand. Again, higher lows established here. You get that bounce here. Fed bull chart speaking, you go straight through. Pretty violent push back down into demand. Again, now, what I will say here, what is happening, and again, people like to say that we're biased here. And again, I try to say as unbiased as possible and try to, prove that to you day in and day out. But if we look here, one, we had that bull flag kind of formed, and I believe now we're breaking out of it and just kind of invalidating it, if you will. But if you look at what's happening here, you can see, right, with that demand, so you can see that you are making lower highs. So we can see lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, right? This is for the whole pivot. I wouldn't count this one because this was on the drop down, right? So you can still see it push back up, made a lower high, push back down. Okay. Now, from there, on the NQ, we are making higher lows still. But if we go to something like ES and look at what the SPY is doing, which we have talked about, a majority of that bearish volume that's coming in, we look at the SPY, it's had a lot of options being priced in for the downside. And we can see this has been vigorous, and you've made lower lows specifically on, that Friday drop you had. So again, you're definitely seeing sellers be a little bit more aggressive here, okay? Now, volume wise, we haven't had a breakout to the downside or, super aggressive selling. But what I will say is on Friday specifically, every time buyers were trying to push you, you were just getting hammered back down until like the end of the day. And it's worth mentioning you had your OPEX on Friday, and I know people want to talk, about that over and over. Like it's just big money making opportunity. Again, chances are you just shouldn't trade near the end of the day on Fridays, especially during OPEX. But yeah, so when we look at what's happening here on ES, it's a definite cause for concern. And I want the focus here to be on your support, your demand, if you will, established right here on the 4-hour time frame. As you can see right there, this shouldn't go all the way back, but I have it right there so you can see, and you're just balancing over and over in this area. Chances are you probably break down through this, but I want to highlight that's where you are now. Now, if we give you a better viewpoint of where you're at here, you can also see that break of 4,100. Pretty gross if you're looking at that. Clear SR flip. Now, right now we're just below it, so we could easily push back through it. Don't want to, claim that you're completely bearish yet. We would love to see a lower low made, specifically getting below like 40.50, possibly even 4,000. Now, I also want to show you what's happening here on the 200 SMA. And I think this is a very big focus, and I think we need to be watching out for it. Now, on the daily level, on what's happening on ES, okay, I want to just quickly show you where you are. Okay, not the volume weighted average, the 200 SMA right there. This is something that was definitely carrying us and got us the big breakout, right? The upside move, if you will, right? When we mounted, pushed up. Now you're kind of trending here. The 200 SMA is going to be a support. It's going to be a big level, and giving you a visual. If you go back out, you can quickly look. You can just see how it's been respected, right? With constant rejection, so much. We've talked about it over and over. Now, going back into NQ, you definitely have a little bit more room to get there, around 11.9, 11.95. That's going to be a major focus here. We need to be paying attention to that. Going into the weekly 200 SMA, it's right there also around like 11.6. So I want to see how we react when we get to that level. How do buyers react to us finally retesting that? Because if we look at something like, for instance, the NQ, and you come in here and we're going to go and just turn on the daily instead of the weekly, you can see that we hadn't been above this level since all the way back of last year. Last year, it's almost a full year underneath the 200 SMA. Very rarely happens. And so that's where you're at right now. You can still see you're trying to stay like in that, bullish flag structure, but it's definitely proceeding too long through this. My take here. Now, when we go a little bit deeper into something like the 4-hour, you get a better visual here, and you can also see what's happening. Again, that 12.4 region, 12.45, you come in here and you look at that area, and it paints a pretty ugly picture for you, right? Right there at 12.45, 12.47. It's been a massive, massive resistance, and it goes all the way back to your swing highs you had back in 2020. And we can see this has been a massive support and resistance, right? You get above it, you stayed above it here in June, and you broke back down, and it was extremely, extremely volatile to the downside, right? It happens over and over and over, right? So it's a very crucial and critical level. That's why I say if we stay below 12.4, I just side with the downside, in my opinion. I have to right there, right? But I'm not overly aggressive on shorts because we're still in that demand. We're still finding, the support. Sellers aren't getting the follow through necessary to continue to push you down. And ultimately, that's what you're going to need to get that big break, right? So as we look at that, just understand and know that. Now, going into something like VIX and looking at these also, and I know I'm anticipating the questions before I could even finish the video. Now, VIX, you've obviously found a lot of support around the $18 level. It's been good to you. It's been respected, to say the very least. And if we look at what's happening, you're trying to continue up. But VIX, I want to say a few things here. Now, you got your push here on the 23rd with, I believe this was right here on Thursday. Yes, when Bull was speaking. And you got that intraday push up. That's what you wanted to see. That's what you needed to see right there. Okay. Now, you want to see follow through. Now, VIX specifically, we've seen a lot of that movement happen in like the after hours, okay, and or pre-market, and I don't really care for that personally. I want to see it continue throughout the day on VIX. I don't want to see a spike and then a drop back down. That's not like something that I really care about, okay? So you want to see continuation through this, and we want to see us get back to the 24 level at least to, you know, get excited about the VIX at the very least, okay? When it's underneath 22, 24, I'm just like, it doesn't matter that much, right? And this has really been the toll that's taken since we've converted SPY contracts to 0 DTE every single day. So you're not seeing as much flow come into the SPX contracts. Worth mentioning. Now we dive a little bit deeper into bonds, and I think bonds are giving you some of the clearest answers here. Now bonds have just been on a tear, and a lot of people mentioned them back here when you bounced at 3.3. We mentioned where you were here. It was at that 200 SMA on the daily. You bounced perfectly. But when we were talking about this, what do we want to see? We want to see continuation. That's been the biggest thing in the market is, can buyers continue? Can sellers continue? Can we actually get a real direction here? Because we've seen a lot of, you know, fake outs and then you just drop right back down. And that's kind of been the worrisome part of right now. So when we look at this, you're getting continuation for sure. And the question now is, do you test 4%, which you're getting very close around the 10. Now we go to the 30 year and you almost got there, within 0.03% of getting there. So I do think it's highly likely the 30-year you'll test, you know, 4% once again. If you start to get back above 4%, I think you're in pretty treacherous waters, because we go back to what happened here back in October. This is when you were finding local lows, when you were pushing over these key areas. Okay, so the inversion on these is definitely in the works, and I would be watching this very closely. You've been sitting at 98, 99% inverted, very close, dangerous, worrisome. TLT, again, people keep asking me, and I want to go over this. So TLT, you can see you kind of had like an ascending triangle form out here. But what's the important thing to know about ascending triangles, bull flags, or these patterns, right? They're typically continuation patterns. So if I'm looking at an ascending triangle near the bottom of what's happening here on, you know, TLT, of it just shooting down, it's not very trustworthy, because you're not looking to continue, you're trying to reverse, right? You're trying to pivot from lows and try to get back on track. And so right now you're breaking below that, which is not surprising whatsoever. And you reject at the 200 SMA also on the TLT, and you're getting somewhat of a bump and run. You break down, retest, push back down. So TLT, I want to see a test of the 100 level and see how we react from that point. If you start to break below these supports down here, I think you are in trouble. I'm going to tell you right now, if TLT gets below 99.5, I think we might start seeing some pretty nasty selling from big money specifically there. Now, that's my viewpoint there. And just because I have to, I'm going to cover the dollar. And the dollar, and this is really, and I repeat myself quite a bit on the channel, but it's really so people understand. So I've had a lot of people say, well, Tyler, the dollar's been like bottoming out. And people were saying this when like the market was just going straight up, right? When we were bullish, people were saying, look, Tyler, the market, you know, it's running, but the DXY is bullish. First of all, the DXY really is not that bullish. Like, let's really look at this. You know, we've had a nasty drop. Remember the 109 level, and we dropped all the way back down to the next support. Big support around 102, 101. Now, from this level, you are bouncing, which we anticipate, right? Every time we come into a demand, every time we come into support, what do we expect? Okay, we expect the opposite of that trend to happen. So we have a target at 109. We hit that target. What do we expect? Do we expect us to blow right through it? No, we don't, right? We expect sellers to step in there. We expect it to be resistant. So we came in, we bounced here. Now, for all the people that are saying, well, the dollar looks like it has so much room to run up, this and that, I just want you to think about, okay? And this is why I say we have to be unbiased all the time, and specifically on the channel. If we look at the structure and how you've moved on the dollar from November 10th, November 9th to February 3rd, hypothetically, the SPY, based on people taking this as a risk off or risk on mentality would be the correct wordage, you should be parabolic, right? So people are saying right now, like if you don't understand, when the dollar goes up, a lot of people get behind the thesis of the market has to drop. And when the dollar is dropping, the market's bullish. So if we look at this, and then I want to look specifically at the NQ, because the NQ, like we've shown, has carried us, okay? So from November 9th, right, all the way down to like February 3rd, So November 9th, right about, we'll say right here. Yeah, we'll use this one. This is the best one. We'll say at the bottom down here when you really start dropping to February 3rd right here. Okay, the market should be parabolic. So if we go back real quick to DXY, obviously you're just going straight down. So the market should be going straight up. But the NQ doesn't do that. The NQ really just trades almost, I don't want to say sideways verbatim, but you push up. We all know from November 11th through basically December 15th, you were sideways back and forth, and then you dumped, and then you pop back up right through January. So you're really not getting a clear answer or a clear decision here. And then even through this right now, we look locally around February 2nd through now, we go back to DXY. And as the market is bouncing here from February 2nd till now on the dollar's going up. So hypothetically, the market should be dropping. You're not getting that clear of an answer. If you will, you're just consolidating near highs where the dollar's, going up. So that thesis is just flawed. But the answer isn't that the dollar's not important. The answer is you have to understand the fundamentals that go into this. And that's why we do these Sunday videos, is so you can understand. So when you look at the dollar isn't moving basically solely on what's happening here with NQ. The dollar's moving based on what's happening with China, the devaluations of currency, what's happening with oil prices, what's happening with the petrodollar, right? And that's why we highlight all that, is so you don't misuse information with your trading. And the goal here is to help you reduce your risk. That is our number one goal here, is to reduce risk in trading at all costs, right? It's not to make $1 million, which would be awesome. It's not to make 10,000%. It's to create opportunities for the most success. That's the point, and that's the view here. So I hope this part makes sense, and that's why I wanted to break it down just pretty quickly here. I'm not going to do too many more of those. Now, going back to some of the stocks, I'm like, you know what? I want to cover Bitcoin for a second also, just really quick, because I know people have been tagging me on Twitter all week about it, right? So Bitcoin, okay? Now, I want to go over Bitcoin on something like the 1 hour so you can get a better visual. So obviously on Bitcoin on, I believe it was Tuesday, you had a craze, or Wednesday, you had a massive bounce from 22K to 25. Ripped, went crazy basically for 2 days. Bullard speaks, you drop. Now, the stock market has been, from Bullard speaking until Friday, you were getting hit and you had to bounce at the end of the day. Now, Bitcoin recently, like 2 hours ago, hit local highs again, basically around 25.2K. Now you're getting pushed back down. So the question is Bitcoin giving us a risk off mentality or risk on mentality? Is this a foreshadowing upside coming into the market? Now, for me, this is my opinion. Okay, so take it as you will. I believe you need to use Bitcoin as you can use it as a risk on indicator. I prefer using it with something like IWM and the Nasdaq. That's personally, but I will never use Bitcoin as a leader in the economy. I do not think Bitcoin will lead the Nasdaq. I do not think Bitcoin will lead the SPY. I do not believe Bitcoin will signal when the bottom is in per se. That's my opinion. Bitcoin will always follow indexes, at least until there's a massive separation from them. And that has not happened yet. That's my opinion there. So when I see Bitcoin up like this, I think it looks good. I structurally think you're maybe possibly double topping. But when I'm looking at this, I'm not going into it with the viewpoint of saying, okay, we have to come out bullish, Tuesday. Okay, that's not my opinion there. Okay, so you need to understand that. I think Bitcoin looks fine. You haven't followed the NQ on the past day and a half, but if we look over the past year, it's clearly followed the indexes. And if you disagree with that, I just recommend going to the weekly chart and just tracking those together. I think you will agree with me. They topped out you topped out sooner on Bitcoin, so that's worth mentioning. And then you really got hammered in January when the stock market started getting hammered. So you need to understand that also. So that's my viewpoint, what I'm watching for. And I think just, go back, fact check me. Don't trust everything I say. Do your own due diligence, because ultimately you're in charge of your own money. So understand that. But going into the week, again, just want to highlight really quick. These are our main bullet points. I think the 24th will be important. Very, very important. I think Fed minutes is almost irrelevant right now, in my opinion. People might disagree with me, and I'm sure the comments I'll see those. But Fed minutes is basically just going to be a recap and just the wording of what was said during the Fed meeting in the beginning of the month. Now that we've have new data, now that data points that inflation is not dropping, inflation is possibly rising again, I think the tone of the Fed will shift. We'll see some Fed members speak on Wednesday and probably throughout the week, but they're just not on the calendar right now. The 200 SMA, obviously, I think will be the most important technical aspect of the chart for the week. So we need to understand that also. China concerns. Right now, America is being very passive with China. Very, very passive. But the question is do they flip this tone? Because right now, China, today I posted on Twitter, so y'all can see that, links down below. They are threatening the US about this balloon stuff. And it's just kind of crazy. And it makes America look weak right now. And so you have to wonder, will America start to flex their guns per se soon? That's the concern right now for me. And this uncertainty with China causes me to be worried about the strength of the economy, especially with what's happening with inflation. I think this is all kind of structured, and I think it's happening. It's kind of like a perfect storm, if you will, right now. So definitely these are the most important parts of the week, and I'll definitely be highlighting these throughout the week. More videos are coming. I'll have a video tomorrow going over the market. If we have futures, I don't even know if futures will be open tonight. They open tonight. We'll see. But I'll be going over some Bitcoin tomorrow, and then I'll also be going over stocks I like throughout the week. Just don't have enough time in this video today. Have a good one, traders.